Hello and welcome to the Unspoken YouTube channel, where we explore the hidden stories behind the headlines. In today's video, we're going to take a journey through the history of the establishment of the State of Palestine, one of the most disputed and unresolved issues of the 20th and 21st centuries. How did this land become the center of a long and bitter conflict between two peoples, both claiming it as their homeland? What were the historical and political forces that shaped the Palestinian identity and aspirations? And what are the challenges and opportunities for achieving a peaceful and just solution in the region? Stay tuned to find out. The Ottoman Era. From the 16th to the 20th century, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, a Muslim dynasty that ruled over a large part of the world. The Ottomans were tolerant and respectful of the diverse religious and ethnic groups that lived in Palestine, including the Jews, Christians, and Muslims. However, they also taxed and administered the land according to their own interests, often neglecting the needs and rights of the local population. The Ottoman era was a time of relative stability and coexistence in Palestine, but also of oppression and injustice. The Ottoman Sultan was the supreme ruler of a vast and glorious empire that stretched from the Balkans to the Persian Gulf, and from the Caucasus to the Nile. He was the protector and defender of Islam, and the guardian of the holy places of Jerusalem, Mecca, and Medina. He was also the master and oppressor of millions of people, who had to pay tribute and obey his commands. He appointed local Arab leaders, who were mostly landowners, merchants, and religious scholars, to represent and mediate his authority in Palestine. They enjoyed a degree of autonomy and privilege, as long as they maintained order and loyalty. They also had their own grievances and demands, as they wanted to have more control and influence over their affairs and resources. The British Mandate. In 1917, during World War I, the British occupied Palestine, and issued the Balfour Declaration, which promised to support the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, while respecting the rights of the existing non-Jewish communities. The declaration was welcomed by many Jews worldwide, but opposed by the Arab nationalists, who felt betrayed by the British and the French, who had secretly agreed to divide the Middle East between them in the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Arthur Balfour was the British Foreign Secretary, who was in charge of the foreign policy of the British Empire. He was also a supporter of the Zionist movement, which sought to create a Jewish homeland in Palestine, the ancestral land of the Jews. Lord Rothschild was a leader of the British Jewish community, who was also a prominent banker and philanthropist. He was also a Zionist, who believed that the Jews deserved a homeland of their own, where they could live in freedom and security. He received the letter from Balfour, in which he saw a historic recognition of the Jewish claim to Palestine, and a great opportunity for the realization of the Zionist dream. Hajj Amin al-Husseini was the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, the highest religious authority of the Muslims in Palestine. He was also a nationalist, who opposed the British occupation and the Jewish settlement in Palestine. He saw the letter from Balfour as a betrayal and a violation of the rights and interests of the existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, and a threat to the Arab and Muslim identity and sovereignty of the land. The Palestinian Nationalism. From 1922 to 1948, Palestine was under the British Mandate, which saw an increase of Jewish immigration and settlement in Palestine, as well as Arab resistance and violence. The British tried to balance the conflicting demands of the two communities, but failed to satisfy either side. They also imposed restrictions on Arab immigration and land purchase, which angered the Palestinians and led to the emergence of different factions within the Palestinian movement, some of which resorted to armed resistance. Izz ad-Din al-Qassam was the leader of the Black Hand, a militant group that fought against the British and the Zionists in Palestine. He was a preacher and a revolutionary, who advocated for a holy war against the enemies of Islam and Palestine. He was not loyal to any political party or leader, but to his own cause and vision. He inspired many Palestinians to join his struggle, and became a martyr and a hero after his death in a battle with the British. Musa al-Husseini was the mayor of Jerusalem, and a member of the Husseini family, one of the most influential and prominent families in Palestine. He was a moderate and a reformist, who sought to improve the conditions and the rights of the Palestinians under the British rule. The Partition Plan. In 1947, the United Nations proposed to partition Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab, with Jerusalem as an international city. The plan was accepted by the Jewish Agency, the representative body of the Jewish community in Palestine, but rejected by the Arab Higher Committee, the representative body of the Arab community in Palestine, and by the neighboring Arab states. The plan was never implemented, as civil war broke out between the Jews and the Arabs in Palestine, and the British announced their withdrawal from the mandate. Harry Truman was the President of the United States, and the leader of the free world. He was also a friend and a supporter of the Jewish people, especially after the horrors of the Nazi genocide. He believed that the Jews deserved a homeland of their own, where they could live in freedom and security. The Nakba. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the leader of the Jewish Agency, proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel in Palestine. The United States and the Soviet Union recognized the new state, but the Arab states did not. They invaded Israel, starting the War of Independence, which lasted until 1949. The war resulted in the mass exodus and expulsion of Palestinians from their homes in Israel, and the creation of the Palestinian refugee problem. The Palestinians call this event the Nakba, which means catastrophe or disaster in Arabic. David Ben-Gurion was the leader of the Jewish Agency, and the first Prime Minister of Israel. He was a visionary and a statesman, who declared and defended the independence of Israel. He also extended his hand of friendship to the Arab neighbors, and offered them peace and cooperation. Yasser Arafat was the leader of the Fatah movement, and the chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization. He was a fighter and a negotiator, who fought for the freedom and dignity of the Palestinian people. He also recognized Israel as a partner and a neighbor, and pursued a peaceful and diplomatic solution. He accepted the two-state solution, and declared the State of Palestine. The Palestinian National Movement. After the Nakba, the Palestinians formed a national movement to fight for their rights and interests. The Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was established in 1964, as the representative body of the Palestinian people. The PLO adopted various strategies and tactics, including armed struggle, diplomacy, and negotiations, to achieve its goals. The PLO also faced internal divisions and external challenges, such as the Israeli occupation, the Arab-Israeli wars, the Lebanese civil war, and the rise of Islamist groups. The State of Palestine. On November 15, 1988, the PLO proclaimed the establishment of the State of Palestine, based on the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. The declaration was written by Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish and announced by Yasser Arafat, the leader of the PLO, in Algiers, Algeria. The declaration was recognized by many countries, but not by Israel, the United States, and the United Nations. The declaration was also opposed by some Palestinian factions, such as Hamas, which rejected the recognition of Israel. The peace process. Since the late 1980s, there have been several attempts to achieve a peaceful and just solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, based on the two-state solution, which envisages the coexistence of Israel and Palestine as independent and sovereign states. The most notable efforts include the Madrid Conference in 1991, the Oslo Accords in 1993, the Camp David Summit in 2000, the Road Map for Peace in 2003, and the Arab Peace Initiative in 2007. However, none of these initiatives have resulted in a final and comprehensive agreement, due to various obstacles and challenges, such as the Israeli settlements, the Palestinian violence, the status of Jerusalem, the fate of the refugees, and the role of the regional and international actors. The Madrid Conference was the first direct peace conference between Israel and its Arab neighbors, including the Palestinians, after the Gulf War. It was sponsored by the United States and the Soviet Union, and aimed to establish a framework for bilateral and multilateral negotiations on various issues, such as security, water, refugees, and economic cooperation. The conference led to the signing of peace treaties between Israel and Jordan in 1994, and Israel and Morocco in 1995. The current situation. The State of Palestine is currently divided into two parts: the West Bank, which is under the control of the Palestinian Authority, the interim self-government body that was established after the Oslo Accords, and the Gaza Strip, which is under the control of Hamas, the Islamist movement that won the 2006 Palestinian legislative elections, and ousted the Palestinian Authority from Gaza in 2007. The State of Palestine is also under the occupation of Israel, which maintains a military presence and a blockade in the Palestinian territories, and continues to expand its settlements and annex its lands. The State of Palestine is also facing a political and economic crisis, as well as a humanitarian and health crisis, especially in the Gaza Strip, which suffers from poverty, unemployment, and lack of basic services. The State of Palestine is also seeking international recognition and support, as well as reconciliation and unity among its factions and people. The international community is the group of actors and stakeholders that have an interest and an influence in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It includes the United States, the European Union, Russia, the United Nations, the Arab League, and other countries and organizations. It is committed to the peace and stability of the region, and has supported various initiatives and efforts to resolve the conflict, such as the Quartet, the Arab Peace Initiative, and the UN resolutions. However, it has also faced many challenges and difficulties, such as the lack of consensus, the lack of leverage, the lack of credibility, and the lack of action. The establishment of the State of Palestine was a long and difficult struggle for the Palestinian people, who had been dispossessed and marginalized by the Zionist and British colonialism. It was also a source of conflict and controversy for the Israeli people, who felt threatened and insecure by the Palestinian claims and resistance. The history of Palestine is full of wars and peace efforts, tragedies and triumphs, hopes and fears. It is a history that is still unfolding, and that affects the lives of millions of people in the region and beyond. We hope you enjoyed this article, and learned something new and interesting about the history of the establishment of the State of Palestine. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to leave your comments and feedback below. Thank you for watching.